The city of Columbia was originally built as by the United States government in the 1890s as a sort of a floating World's Fair, something they could float from one corner of the earth to the other and demonstrate to the rest of the world the success of the American experiment. Think of the Statue of Liberty, but it can move around the world. And what happened was there was a power struggle within Columbia. And this fellow who you'll sort of start to get a sense of in this demo, named Comstock, came into power in the city. And he had a bit of a different view. He had a more, extreme view of what the mission of America and the world is. And there were some people in the city who didn't like that. And that group was the Vox Populi. And it started as a sort of a resistance, almost like a student movement against, the founders, the founders group that Comstock led, as, working to help, to unionize workers, to protect the rights of minorities, things like that within the city. But as the conflict between the founders and the Vox Populi got more extreme, each side started sort of ramping up their actions. And by the time you get to Columbia and you'll see the Vox Populi in the demo, the conflict is pretty extreme, and both sides have a bit of an attitude of, well, as long as we win, nothing else matters. And you encounter the founders last time and sort of got a sense of the dark side of them. And this time you'll encounter Daisy Fitzroy, who's the leader of the Vox Populi. You'll hear her speaking, and you'll see her people at work, and what they're doing is they're essentially cleansing a portion of the city, moving the founders out of a portion of the city, a rich part of the city, and coming in themselves, and it's not a pretty picture to behold.
Sons of bitches! Monocle? What am I gonna do with that?
Best if we don't draw attention to ourselves.
Hey! It's just a postman. He didn't hurt anybody. It's DeWitt! It's DeWitt! Get him! Take cover!
In BioShock, Tenenbaum, the character Tenenbaum, was sort of exploring the work that was going on in DNA at the time. The work that Crick and Watson were doing. And she was building upon that, and that, a very, very radical enhancement of that work was done by Tenenbaum and Sue Chong, and you get the world of plasmids that make the original BioShock. Elizabeth's not a scientist, but she has the ability to interact with the kind of science that was being done in this period, the kind of science that was being done by Einstein, the kind of science that was being done by Heisenberg. All this sort of the world of physics that's being explored, around the turn of the century, and how the science, in the same way Crick and Watson were opening our eyes up to what was inside our body, these scientists, Einstein and Heisenberg and Max Planck, were opening our eyes to what existed around the universe. And everybody can see in the world of Columbia these tears that are windows into these worlds that Heisenberg and Einstein were starting to explain to us. Elizabeth can actually reach into those worlds and manipulate them. And that's what that's what you're seeing her do in the world. And that becomes this great game system we call the tears in BioShock Infinite, where you'll be in a space and you'll see a window where you see a skyline that doesn't exist in the Columbia that Booker is in. You'll see a turret maybe that doesn't exist in the Columbia that Booker exists in. You'll see a bunch of founders who might come in and help you fight the Vox Populi guys you're fighting, who doesn't exist in the version of Columbia that Booker's in. And Elizabeth is essentially saying to you is, I can bring one of these three in for you, Booker. Which one do you want me to bring in? And that's up to the player.
I think I can help. Just tell me which one you want.
We're gonna have all these tools that player has that the player can access via Elizabeth that is gonna make everybody's play experience different. And that's what we always want with BioShock. We want the way I play it, the way you play it, the way he plays it to be different. And that's Elizabeth's ability to manipulate terrorists is just another great way to do that.